right, welcome back. Segment 2, criminal mindset tonight. This is so bizarre. And this case actually began about a year and a half ago, and I covered it at the time. You had a dad who was arrested for leaving his 2-year-old daughter in a hot car in the middle of the Arizona summer, who then died, and he was charged for it. But this case had some really bizarre aspects. We see this in Arizona, honestly, way too much, which is a complete tragedy in our state, given the fact that it does get so hot here. And that this was a completely negligent move. But the problem here was that it's what he was doing inside in a pattern that was told to police by his other daughters that makes this case even more concerning. That man was supposed to turn himself in this week as the case was progressing, and he was found dead in a Phoenix home. So let's go back to what actually happened in July or August of 2024. So it was last summer that Christopher Scholtes, he was 37 at the time, left his 2-year-old daughter in a hot car outside in their home in Marana, that's outside Tucson, while he was allegedly inside playing video games, according to court paperwork. The degrees out, the temperature out that day was 109 degrees, and the 2-year-old's body temperature at the time that she was found was 108 degrees. Now, he told police that he actually just went inside for a little bit and left her out there, that the car was on, and that he was going back for her. But the problem was they had surveillance footage on their house, which told a much different story. This actually showed that she was left in the car for 3 hours, and it took his wife getting home before anybody actually went back to the car. This car also, even if he did leave the AC on, eventually turned off for a long time, which made the girl suffer from heat exhaustion, which led to her death. The court paperwork at the time was wild, though. Most of the time when these things happen, sometimes people aren't even charged because it's such a tragedy, and that's a really controversial topic here in Arizona to begin with. Should parents always be charged with some sort of manslaughter, negligent homicide, or murder if and when they leave their kids in a car and they die? A lot of people believe yes, but oftentimes police departments will actually look at a case and decide that this wasn't on purpose and that the family has already suffered enough, so they don't need to face another charge on top of already losing their child. This case, however, though, was much different. So the court paperwork was 200 pages of very concerning details, and this is what we learned at the time. Scholtes' other 2 young daughters, the 2 older ones, told police that this was a pattern. One of them said that they had been left in the car 59 times, and that daughter was the one who told detectives he was playing a video game when he left their baby sister in the car. Police also uncovered text messages between Christopher Scholtes and his wife after the girl's death. His wife said, quote, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you?" And Scholtes responded by saying, "Babe, I'm sorry. I can't believe this. Detectives are coming for me. I'm going to prison. I killed our baby. This can't be real." He did originally plead not guilty. Obviously, those are pretty incriminating text messages when it comes to the fact that he did leave her and that there was clearly a pattern here. But when police got there, he was trying to talk to them and tell them that he thought that the AC was on. How did it shut off? And there's body camera footage that shows those chaotic moments when police first get to the house. I want to play those for you.
Please, baby. Please, baby. Please. This is my worst nightmare.
The car's been on. She was left in the car half an hour, 45 minutes, but it was said it was on.
Was the air conditioning on?
Yes.
But I guess it turned off, right?
The AC was on.
Anything? Anything?
Obviously, he's in distress there, and that it's blurred because that's the way that we got it from the police department. But he keeps telling them this was on, it must have turned off. And so at the time, police did charge him with second-degree murder. That's even a pretty high charge when it comes to these kinds of cases. But then the grand jury took it up a whole nother notch. So this case went to grand jury. They actually came back, looked at all the evidence, and said, actually, we're going to go with first-degree murder and child abuse after looking at all the evidence. And so that ups the ante of this entire case. Now, he was able to post bail and was not held in custody. Even though this was a serious murder case, he was able to actually get out. And during this time, while he was still pleading not guilty, he went to Hawaii earlier this year with his wife and 2 other kids, which was extremely controversial. A lot of people criticizing the fact that he was able to leave the state and go, I mean, not overseas, but that far away, given the fact that he had a pending first-degree murder trial at the time. So fast forward to last month, Christopher Scholtes unexpectedly takes a plea deal. He ends up pleading guilty and admitting that he left her there, that the AC went off, that this was a pattern, that he left her there for way longer than he said, all of that, and took a plea deal for second-degree murder, which meant that he would be looking at a maximum of 30 years in prison if that's what the sentence was decided on by a judge. So he was still out of custody. He was supposed to turn himself in yesterday to prepare for the sentencing on November 21st. And instead, police found him dead inside a home in Phoenix. And I'm reading a comment here. He knew full well the little girl was left in the hot car for longer than what he said. And it seems like now he did actually admit to that down the road. Of course, for over a year, though, he was singing a different tune. But when it came down to it in a plea deal, I think he looked at this and thought, well, up to 30 years is a lot less than life in prison, which is what you could get for first-degree murder. And then when you would have tacked child abuse onto that too, I mean, there's a good chance he was never getting out of prison. What does confuse me, though, now is knowing he took a plea deal last month with the knowledge he was going to have to turn himself in and go to sentencing. Did he plan on taking his own life the whole time? Did he take a plea deal with the intent to kill himself right before he was going to have to turn himself in to actually face the consequences here? Or did he take the plea deal and has been wrestling with all of these emotions and everything as he was going to prepare to go to prison and decided at the nth hour that he was going to take his life before he'd ever go to court? We don't know, and a lot of people are really upset now because there was no justice in this case. But it does beg the question, what happens now that Christopher Scholtes has killed himself? Does the case move forward? What happens to the wife and the kids? What happens to the attorneys who have been working on this case now for a year and a half with hundreds and hundreds of pages of evidence and everything that they were getting ready to present? I spoke to a criminal defense attorney who is down in Tucson, who I actually talked to when I first did this story like a year and a half ago about how this was unfolding. It was kind of unusual. The evidence and the details were extra concerning in this case. And I asked him, well, is this common? And he said, no, it's not common that we see somebody take their own life like this before. You definitely hear of it. You definitely hear of it, around the country, especially in extremely high profile situations. But in this case, this was really, really unexpected. And so I asked him, what happens next? And Louis Fidel, criminal defense attorney, explains.
The case gets dismissed because in a criminal case, the defendant is the person, and when the person is deceased, there is no longer anyone or any entity to prosecute or impose a sanction on, and so the criminal case is dismissed. I mean, it's awful. It's awful for the family. Every part of this case is awful for a family, and it is hard on attorneys when you represent somebody over a period of time. You develop you develop a rapport, you develop a level of trust with that person, and it's a terrible feeling when somebody that you represent does something like that.
And that's it. The case is just done, which has stunned so many different people. I think, too, the concern is if this was a pattern and he has two other daughters who are young, both under the age of 10, where's the accountability in terms of, them being safe? And I think now you've got two other girls who lost their dad. You have a wife who lost their baby, their 2-year-old, and a husband. I mean, this is just like a worst case scenario for a case like this. And so I just kind of feels like justice is unresolved in this case, but that really took so many people by storm. And I know in Arizona this was happening, but I was reading the last couple of days, I mean, this was going national because so many people were so disturbed by the fact that he was playing video games and there was possible other concerning, disturbing Google searches going on, left her in there for 3 hours. I mean, I think people were really angry and wanted to see this case come to fruition and him be truly punished. And a lot of people just felt he took the easy way out and this was cowardly, and now the case just ends. So that was definitely unexpected here in Arizona. That case now wrapped up due to him taking his own life.